Hi Vivian, this is Lindsay Schultz. I have been working with Alberta Blue Cross for 17 years and I've been privileged enough to spend my last few years as a leader in the company. It spanned over 2 different teams and led to 2 very different experiences, which is where my journey started. I started off managing a small team in medical underwriting of about 10 people. Most of my career was spent in this department prior to management, so I was really familiar with the business and the team, and it was a really stable practice. My time in medical underwriting was such a lovely start to management because it gave me the ability to try on different leadership skills in the safety of an environment I felt I knew really well. Early on, my ability to see the big picture helped me cast a vision for our team and set us up for opportunities. My decisions were always based with big picture in mind. 2 years ago, I moved in the company to Life and Disability Services. While this was a lateral move, it was to a department that was much bigger, about 50 people, and was quickly growing. My time in life and disability has been vastly different from that in underwriting. Our company has decided to grow in the life and disability market and spend a lot of time and energy on that. So we are growing our team, we're hiring out a province, we've introduced multiple new software systems and upgrades all at the same time. The change has been rapid. Still, this environment allowed me to realize that I have flexibility as a leader, and it allowed me to build new relationships. And it was the only way I could really move in this environment of rapid change. While I do not lead a global workforce, I approach this assignment with more understanding than I would have even 2 years ago. It's easy to lead a team that is small and well-defined, and being able to find your strengths as a leader. Being in an environment of constant change has allowed me to take a sober look in the mirror and identify some of my stretches as well. While I could probably identify multiple, the 2 I felt related best to global leadership were clear communication and digital business skills. As I read the papers over the last few weeks, it's quite apparent that that leading a multinational corporation has its challenges. Woolard says, the globalization of talent management introduces layers of additional complexity, where organizations may operate in numerous countries and employ people from a variety of different cultural backgrounds. Stone and Diedrich also support this by saying organizations operating in a global environment face a number of new challenges, including difference in languages and culture of employees, and variations in social, political, and legal systems. As I settle into this podcast, I'm excited to explore some of those goals, how I plan to achieve them, and how I believe they would bridge a gap for me. While global leadership is not an area that I have experienced, it is something that even after reading the articles from the last 2 weeks, I feel more familiar with. Leading a workforce from home that spreads across Canada may not touch on aspects such as legal issues or language, but it still delves into technical issues and need for clear communication. So moving into my areas of strength, as I mentioned in my introduction, 2 areas of strength I believe I have that are suited to leading a global workforce are seeing the big picture and approaching new relationships with flexibility. So I'll start with big picture. I use this phrase sometimes while weaving my hands around for emphasis when I'm trying to pull my team or a conversation out of the weeds, the minutiae, these deep specifics we tend to get into. I like to bring people back up by asking, how does this fit? How does this apply to the big picture? I've always felt comfortable with seeing the overall objective, and in turn this has allowed me to approach both our foundational training and our day-to-day operations from the big picture role. It allows my team to dig into their understanding their why, which is what I believe is really paramount. In Chapter 2 in Global Business Strategy by Caligari, Lepac, and Bonache, it states, in fact, as many managers move up the organizational chart, their most important tasks often revolve around the big picture or setting a strategic vision, communicating it effectively, and getting their people to align their efforts behind it. This statement really shows me how critical casting the big picture is, but ironically also touches on one of my stretches as well. Seeing the big picture and getting my team to see it in their everyday interactions helps them align with the company, foster a sense of belonging, and understanding their overall purpose, Ultimately, it leads to a good employee experience and retention, which is my goal as a manager. In their article, Challenges and Opportunities Affecting the Future of Human Resource Management, Stone and Diedrich say just that. Knowledge organizations stress that an employee's knowledge and skill have a major impact on organization success, and employee retention is important because individual skills are not substitutable. My other strength that helps lead a global workforce is relationship building. When I think back on my days in medical underwriting, and knowing it all, I realized that my network was actually pretty small. And, part of that was just because it was a really small team, but part of that was I didn't reach out much. I really was inward facing. Moving to my new department in life and disability, I had a great foundation, no doubt. And, I was told that a manager didn't need to know every detail of business to be successful. But I still didn't have the history or the knowledge of the day-to-day that I previously found comfort in. Pair this with a new system, a global pandemic, a shortage in our niche positions of case managers, forcing us to look outside provincial borders for talent. My only way to adapt was to be flexible and to build relationships with both within my team and outside my department. Fang, in her article, 6 Trends of Future of Human Resource Talent, says leadership in the new world will be less about leading people and more about orchestrating an ecosystem of work. And she embellishes on this in the idea of leadership will require both agile thinking and interpersonal skills. I had to build authentic relationships with both my team managers to rely on them to execute a vision and, help me with my own learning. But I built strong relationships with HR to approach recruiting in a new way, building relationships in sales to allow us some flexibility in our SLAs, and underwriting to secure a new form of communication. So while I was able to improve processes, I also built a trusted network with whom I can turn to in times of need. So moving on to stretches, I tend to be hard on myself, so it was not difficult to pick out 2 underdeveloped competencies as they pertain to leading a global workforce. There were so many stretches in the articles, but I picked 2 I felt I could build goals around. The first stares me straight in the face every single day. I struggle with technical elements of my position, digital business skills. So while implementing new systems and partnering with IT regular has really boosted my knowledge, it's felt glacial-like in pace at times. And for what's needed to run a global team, I don't think it's up to par. Communication is digital. Meetings are digital. Our workflow system, my budgeting system, everything involves what and feels like this inherent knowledge of digital. Agarwal and Al-Kuwaiti in their paper says, enhancing the skills and competency of the people in an organization so they are equipped to ensure the efficient and productive utilization of technology available to them. So while I have support in this area, my lack of comfort slows down my efficiency in what I do. Another stretch for me is clear communication. A few times I have touched on how moving from medical underwriting to life and disability has been helpful. I've reflected that the clear communication style that I felt I previously had didn't really follow me. Maybe this is bred out of change or perhaps a lack of confidence in a new role. Either way, I feel I use too many words. I quoted Caligari, Lepak, and Bonash earlier when I touched on the big picture strength, but the success of that sentence really hinged around communicating it effectively and getting their people to align their efforts behind it. In short, I use too many words. I could be more direct. I add unnecessary detail to prove my point sometimes, and yet I still have the assumption that people know what I'm talking about. So this is a good time to move into goals, rationalizing, and how do I plan to achieve them. So I thought a lot about my goals in relation to my stretches. When I take a step back, I think I really need to leverage some of my strengths in assisting with my stretches, not just sitting in the comfort of my strengths. So for example, my digital competency issue, I would like to use my newly formed network to help me assist in certain aspects of this improvement. Luckily, another strength I have that I have not mentioned is my love of lifelong learning. So a goal I could set around digital competency would be twofold, asking for help when I need it and taking course to develop my acumen. Realistically, when I look at this in relation to SMART goals, is to develop a bit of a map. I cannot become proficient in all areas at once. That's very unrealistic. I need to develop, let's say, 2 goals per year and then develop a plan around them. It's really more for me about carving out time to make this a priority. Hood, in the business of people, talks about Friday afternoons off and providing an environment of fun that allows a team to grow. Surely this applies to me as well. For 2021, I'd like to become better with our budget software system. We do have online tutorials, I've perused slowly and slightly, but if I take a Friday afternoon off, watch these videos and book an hour with my financial planning guy, whom I have a great relationship with now, and ask him for help, I think it furthers my relationship with him, but also allows me to grow my competency. Another goal could be surrounding Excel. Taking courses would be great, but I must not be the only person who has issues with this because our learning and development department offers lunch and learns on Excel. So carving out time, ultimately I think taking 1 to 2 hours each Friday for my own personal goals assists me with these tasks. How does this relate to leadership? If I invest this time and become proficient in these tasks, it leads to time savings later and my own confidence. I can work more on developing relationships and spending time with my team. I think it also role models personal development. I struggled a bit more with a goal for clear communication. So rationalizing this was a no-brainer. Clear communication with anyone leads to a better understanding and to better outcomes. Agarwal and Alkawithy relate to this point in HR professionals when they say it can be recommended that having excellent communication skills and leadership skills, the HR team can face the challenges and solve the same in the most effective manner. Caligari, Lepac, and Bonosh add, it is important for such messages to be clear and unequivocal, which means that HR practices need to be consistent. So how do I approach effective communication in a smart way? I really had to think outside the box on this one, and I did come up with 2 ideas. The first is perhaps a departure of communication altogether, engaging, active listening better. Part of clear communication is not just understanding your people, but also understanding what communication they actually are looking for and what they need. Hood says, creating a culture that encourages innovation, enables communication, and instills confidence in the employees' ideas that will be acted upon. So when you're actively listening and you're engaging your people in a different way. So effective immediately, I would like to approach my meetings from a place of active listening, starting off a conversation by asking a question rather than, starting with my own thoughts. I believe I could measure this success through employee engagement surveys, which we run annually for engagement, and we run an off-season one every 6 months on mental health engagement and that of the efficacy of a manager. The second idea is building in more preparation time. I find that it's so fast-paced these days. I'm going from meeting to meeting, not really knowing, what my purpose of the next meeting is. So by taking a few moments to jot down my ideas and referencing those in a simplistic way really cuts out the additional words I feel that are needed to be clear and concise. So in conclusion, it's nice to discuss our strengths in a global setting, and it can be easy to stay with those out of comfort. There are many aspects of global leadership that I cannot fully understand as I work in a very local company. I cannot touch on major language or cultural differences. However, there are many stretches that I believe are universal, especially in a work from home environment. Communicating clear plans and utilizing digital acumen would help me achieve more to my repertoire of strengths. This contributes to the big picture and develops a roadmap on how to achieve it. Utilizing strengths to bridge my gaps of underdeveloped skills is a way to round out the acumen of a global leader. To close, I'd like to quote Hood, who was actually quoting Sullivan in his paper. We believe leaders drive values, values drive behavior, behavior drives culture, and culture drives performance. Well, it's important to take the time to reflect on what your strengths are as a leader, mapping out a plan to identify and develop goals to focus on your stretches is ultimately what makes you a better leader for your team. It enables you to effectively drive values that then leads to performance. Thanks so much.